swept fellow bantamweight Dan Lynn on the judges' scorecards at Saturday's Battlefield Fight League event in Vernon, BC. So again, representing my hometown, just his second professional fight, but a guy with a great story, wanting to become the first Sikh fighter to make it to the UFC. Gary St. Lion Mangat joins us. Gary, congratulations on the win Saturday, and congrats on representing Abbotsford in MMA. How's it going?
It's amazing, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, let's talk about your trek as a mixed martial artist, because it's an interesting one. You actually showed up at Ultimate Fighter tryouts after UFC 128 in New Jersey without any professional experience whatsoever, right?
Yes, I did.
And how did that go?
It was amazing. It was definitely one of those experiences that, that keeps me motivated in the gym, because the only thing I was lacking at that point was the 3 pro fight record. Other than that, I was keeping up with all these guys that were at the tryouts. It was just a professional record at that time.
So that's the only reason they didn't put you on the show, because let's not forget Matt Riddle. He all of his professional experience has been inside the cage.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
an Ultimate
They
Fighter.
changed the rules after that.
Okay,
right after that.
So that's why, because obviously if you impress them that much, what did they tell you regarding your potential at that time? Who were some of the bigwigs or anyone of note that talked to you?
Dana White had talked to my agent right after, because we were trying to make sense of the whole situation at that point, because it works in rounds, right? So you make the next round and whatnot. And the guy that I rolled with, I dominated on the ground, and he made it to the next round. We're like, this doesn't make sense. There's nothing else displayed here that would make sense of it. So we went and found out, and they're like, yeah, it's just his pro record, man. There's no pro fights. He has an excellent amateur record. Just tell him go get that experience and just come back and go at it again. Just keep going at it. And that's been my motivation every morning since I've been back from it.
Why mixed martial arts, Gary?
I still don't honestly know. Every day I'm trying to figure out that answer. I was never a fighter in school. I always got picked on in high school and stuff like that. I was always the smallest kid. I always got pushed around and stuff. And then when I moved up to Vancouver, I saw Rich Franklin fighting on TV about 4 years ago, and I found out he was a high school teacher that does mixed martial arts, and I always assumed it was these warriors that were raised from the day they were born and were told, hey, listen, you're going to be a fighter for the rest of your life. But I guess that wasn't the case. So then I found a gym in Vancouver where Caleb Starnes used to train at, and from there it's just been one day at a time struggle that I've been building up for the past 3.5, 4 years now.
21 years of age, you start training without any formal martial arts background. Is that true, that you didn't even know how to throw a punch?
I didn't even know how to throw a punch. My strategy was chin up, hands down. I went into a fight 4 years ago, so I had no experience whatsoever.
How impactful has Kaltar Black Mamba Gill been on your career? Of course, another East Indian fighter who I know very well. I actually announced many of his early kickboxing events in Abbotsford back in the day, and of course, a K1 and MMA veteran. What has he meant to your career?
He's been everything, because he's the one who kind of paved the path for the young Indian fighters coming up. And the thing is, I used to watch him when I was a kid, and I never thought, he'd be my coach one day, or that we'd be standing alongside each other. So for our paths to come together and me being part of Mamba MMA, it's an extra responsibility. It's like a mentor. He's like a father figure. He's a brother figure. Gives me advice, because he's been through a lot of the experiences that I'm going through, a lot of the everyday struggles of it, and he lets me know that it's normal to be feeling the way I do and stuff like that, and keeps me very much together. And he sends me out to, I spent a lot of time at TriStar for this fight, so I was around some of the best guys up there, and we were constantly always in touch. And then I came back and I finished off my camp in Abbotsford for this fight, and he's just been there. He's just one of those people that truly means a lot to me in my career and in life in general.
Gary, just tell us a bit about how you hooked up with TriStar and a fighter just kind of getting into MMA, what that process is. I mean, was that you going to TriStar? Tell us about just how you got in contact with them.
TriStar has TriStar dorms where it's next door to the TriStar gym. You can stay there. So guys like Ken Flo, I've stayed with Kenny Florian, Miguel Torres, Sean Pearson. We've all lived together there, and they found me on Facebook and YouTube, and then I started talking to them back and forth, and they're like, yeah, we've seen your videos. We definitely see a lot of talent. We'd love to have you down there. And then when I went down there, just put a good impression on them, and they're like, listen, man, you should definitely come down here and train more. There's a lot of guys your way. I trained with Miguel, Ivan Menjivar, Denise, all those kind of guys. So I was around some of the best guys, and it definitely let me know where I'm at in the game. So mentally and physically, I was pushed every day to see if I truly am on a good path of making it where I want to. So a lot of questions were answered for me during that time, and then I went back to Abbotsford, trained up there, and I'm like, I need to go work on a few more things up there, wrestling and grappling, and then come back and put my entire game together in Abbotsford. And that's exactly what I did. It was just a good formula.
Were you working with Firas Zahabi in terms of the feedback? Was he the one that was giving it to you? I know you trained with so many stars. Who was the guy that really helped you see clearer your future as a fighter at TriStar?
At TriStar, it'd be Coach Faraz, Eric O'Keefe, all those guys. Like, they're amazing at picking fighters apart and letting them know their strengths and weaknesses. A lot of things I try to find these things on my own, but they were seeing things that I didn't even think that they would notice when there's 40 other fighters in the gym, and yet I'd be on the other side of the gym and I come ask him what I can work on, and he'd have about 15, 20 different things that he picked up, and it was amazing that he can pick up stuff like that. But like even fighters that were mentoring me, like Arik Bocek, he gave me a lot of advice on life and like how to go about fighting. Kenny Florian gave me a lot of good words. Ivan Menjivar and me, we worked together a lot. And, just these guys, it was amazing to have been watching them on TV. Like, even Kenny Florian, I was telling him, I'm like, 4 years ago, I stood in line at a Reflex for 4 hours trying to get your autograph. And now I'm here training right next to you for your fight and stuff. So it's crazy how this path has taken on, and, like, just the people I've met, and like,
Tell us a bit about getting to work with George. He's going through the rehab process, which we saw bits and pieces of in the prime time. What can you tell us about George and kind of his recovery, and maybe any advice he had for you getting to work with George?
Well, I didn't get to like work one-on-one with George because we're a few weight classes apart. He's a pretty big guy because I'm a 135er, so I'll work with guys up to about 155 point, and even some of the 155ers, like, they walk around at a very heavy weight up there. But just seeing him in general, and like, he's given us advice on like techniques and stuff like that. His injury kind of came actually a day before I went to Toronto, because I was in TriStar at that time. It was before the show,
I won the Machida
and John Jones fight, and we were all heading up there. And then I was in Toronto when I found out that the whole injury came back, and now he's going to be out for a while. And like, he's just one of those guys, that like everyone's like, he's not going to come back the same guy, this and this and this. Just seeing George and seeing the company he's surrounded by, I'll tell you, these guys, like, it's a family dynamic that I think he's honestly going to come back stronger. He's sitting around doing the physio and recovering. I'm sure it's burning in his head how he wants to come back and prove everybody wrong. And he's just one of those huge inspirations. Like, I can't even say it enough. Like, this guy is a guy who, since day one, I would pull up his YouTube video before I go train and be like, model your personality. This is what a true mixed martial artist is, and to be in that same atmosphere now, it was truly inspiring. And like, I know he's going to come back so strong, and he'll do it right this time. Like, he'll take his time. There's no hurry. There's a lot of hype behind his future fights, but he'll do it right this time.
Gary, you talk about family dynamics, and we know about the camaraderie in all gyms, and representing, this is one of the reasons I wanted to get you on today as well, hailing from Abbotsford, spending the first 3 decades plus of my life there. The biggest Sikh community in Canada is there. I grew up with many Sikh friends and know all about how family is. Like, me being Italian, the Sikhs the same way, the weddings and everything. How important is it for you to become the first Sikh to make it to the UFC? And talk about that aspect of your career, or are we making too much of that?
No, well, the thing is, this is caught on faster than I ever thought. Like when I started this sport, I used to sit in my room and daydream of this. I was like, one day it will get to this, and now that it's coming, it's like, wow, this was what I was imagining. Now you got to take that. Now I'm like, here you have a lot of responsibility, and the thing is, like, even representing like culture and stuff, because he paved the way in Abbotsford and a lot of people around the world. Like, the amount of support I was getting the day of the fight, like, I had to turn my phone off. My Twitter went overload, and it was just I just couldn't believe where some of the messages were coming from, all the way from Australia to the UK. I've never
and was
been
this
to
within
these
the
places.
Sikh community, Gary? Are these fellow Sikh or just fans in general?
It's a mixture, but it is a big Sikh fan base, though, from all over the world. And it is a big Sikh fan base. I thought it was more Abbotsford and Vancouver known, but all the way from Brampton, from Mississauga, to all the way to UK and Southall to Australia. And it's just people are like, represent us, because it seems like they've been waiting for someone to make it to a very big stage of the game. And that's what keeps me motivated. Like, I'll tell you, I'm scared when I'm going into fights. Like, Like, there's a lot of fear, but the fear turns into confidence at one point, and I got to remember, this isn't really about myself. It's about representing a very big group of people that have not been represented on the highest stage, and that's why even, like, I'm supposed to be relaxing right now, but I'm going to go train. Like, you know, I can't be sitting around. There's too little time and too much to accomplish right now, and I've got a momentum going, and I've had a momentum going for about 2.5, 3 years, and I got to keep it going now.
What changes that nervousness into confidence, Gary? Like right before a fight. I mean, what are you kind of getting into your head right before fight time that you see that transition occur?
Well, for me, the biggest thing is the stories of my ancestors. Like, you know, how they protected their faith and their vision, and how mentally strong they had to be to be able to give us strength today. And I just start talking. I just start talking to myself, and it's weird. I go into this different trance, and my trainers and my people that are always in my corner, they're always like, you kind of go into this split personality, because I stop talking English and stuff like that. Like, it goes really weird, and when I snap out of it after a fight, I'm like, what just happened? And it's kind of a really trippy kind of thing, and I still can't explain what it is. But it's just like at that point you realize that there's no turning back. You're like, you might as well accept what's coming and prepare yourself for it. It's not like you can make an excuse and put it off. The music is about to go on. The opponent is already in there. You're about to walk down, and you might as well accept it that you, on your own, are about to step into a cage and fight somebody, and you might as well make the best of that result.
Gary, before we let you go, we thank you very much for this. Talk a little bit about your performance on Saturday in Vernon, where you defeated Dan Lin, improving to 2-0 in your embryonic pro career as a bantamweight, swept all judges' scorecards. Tell us about the fight.
The biggest thing was but when I come into these fights, like I said, I had no martial arts background, so I like to remold myself. Every fight, I like to come in as a different person. I study my fights a lot more than I do study my opponent, just to see what they're looking for. And even the fans, what they're looking for. The fans expected me to just stand up and do my usual routine. And the thing is, me working up in Montreal with the Montreal Wrestling and, like, you know, just working on a lot of my ground, I wanted to be confident with it. I want to be confident, so that way if my ground is confident, then I can be more confident on my stand-up, because I'm not worried about being taken down. So I can do a lot of my footwork and stuff. I've been working a lot of different kind of switch stances and stuff, like kind of like Dominic Cruz kind of footwork, where I'm still trying to put it together, just the early stages of it. But I really wanted to use my wrestling, and that's what it was. I just grinded out 3 rounds on him, and I knew he was going to expect to stay standing with me, and he was going to come in with a standing style. So it was a totally different game plan, and even the commentators, if you listen to the commentary, they're like, this is a totally different version of him. And that's what I want. It's an art of war technique. It's something that George was telling him. Always give them something that they don't expect, right? The art of war, they expect something, and you have to get the victory. And now I got to go back. I got to study this tape on my own and see what my next opponent will be looking for me and remold around that.
Where does
got to keep them guessing?
Absolutely. Where does the nickname Saint Lion come from?
Saint Lion comes from, before I started the sport, before I ever started mixed martial arts, I went to the Sikh camp. It was somewhere where I was volunteering with youth and stuff like that. And there was a competition. There was a Sikh weapons competition, but there was like stick fighting. And the thing is, before the competition, like, you know, I'm very nice. Like, you know, you would never think that I could fight or you know, hold my own. But then they handed me one, and I went in the competition, and I just took out everybody. They're like, this guy becomes a lion when you put him in there. And these guys were very respectful Sikh mixed martial artists from the UK who I looked up to a lot. And they're like, Saint Lion. And then when I started fighting, they're like, let's come up with a name for you. And he's like, remember when I called you Saint Lion? I'm like, that's it. That's the name. It's me. That's what's going to stick. So we kept that.
And the family supports you. I know, like I say, growing up with a lot of East Indian friends, it's an interesting dynamic at times.
It's a very interesting dynamic, man. It's kind of like my dad always said, earn respect by action and then back it up with your words. And the thing is, I spent a lot of my life before telling my dad I had a lot of big plans, and I never pulled through with them. So So when I came and said I'm going to do mixed martial arts, they just kind of saw it as another thing. He'll go through this phase and pull out of it. So I had to prove it every time, fight by fight, day by day, with my dedication, with action, and I've gained respect with my parents, and now they fully accepted it. But there was a few tough years where they're like, are you seriously doing this? And, like, you know, people questioning them, going, what's your kid doing up there? Because I moved up to Vancouver on scholarships to become a CGA accountant. And I'm still pretty close to finishing my CGA right now. But the thing is, I just totally went on a different path, and And
well,
now
good
they've
for you
accepted it.
for chasing your dream, and it's just beginning, Gary. And I really do appreciate this. I'd say something to you in East Indian language, but as always, only know the bad words. But feel free to say a few words in your family's lingo to your fans who may